still here in the audience, I just want to ask for a round of applause for these fantastic filmmakers. Please. So, being a fellow filmmaker, as much as I enjoy watching the films, I enjoy this part even more. So we're going to share a little in-depth of the creation of the film. I'm going to ask a couple of questions to Michael and to Jordan, and then I'm going to ask if there's questions from the audience for you to come up to a microphone here and ask. But let's get the show going first. So I want to talk about, one, the story. All right, so how did the story come? How did it fall in your hands, working with a writer? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it was written by Luke, and he's actually from London. It's actually based off a true story about a family that had a farm there, and they saw some flashing lights one night, and then literally within like a few days, the police they showed up, and that family they took it away, and no one ever heard from them ever again. And they found out that they were working with the Germans, and they were undercover and secretly trying to set up some operation in London. And so we couldn't film that in London. So we chose New London instead, and we changed the story to fit the scenery here. But yeah, so it's actually based off a true story.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And Luke was part of that, or he was
the writer, Luke. Yeah.
He had witnessed this whole thing. How did the script end in your hands?
Yeah, so I was working with a company, Yale Productions, and so yeah, they reached out, and we were actually literally on our way to on a cruise with my family, and they're like, "Hey, we have this project. Would you be interested? Can you do it for this budget in this town? Whatever." And they're like, "You gotta go out there in like 3 weeks." And I'm like, "Okay." So I read it really quickly. I loved it. I'm like, "Yeah, I'll make it work." And we're literally on the ship, like cruising down America, and I'm like reading scripts, making notes, trying to make it work. My family's off having fun, and we're in the cabin working, essentially trying to get it ready.
Now, tell me a little bit about your relationship too, because you guys have all worked together on films as a team. How did that all start? And I want you to feel free to pass the mic down. So.
Yeah, Andrew, I know you. Andrew's he's best at telling these stories.
He's got it.
Hello, everyone. Story time. Okay, so, gosh. Mike and I met in 2010 in his hometown of Pittsburgh on a small independent film called The Dark Knight Rises, directed by Christopher Nolan. Mike was currently living in Pittsburgh, where he grew up in Pittsburgh, just a little small town outside of Pittsburgh called Washington, PA. I had been in Los Angeles for 2 years by then. And my boss, she was like, "Hey, we're doing this movie, you're gonna come to Pittsburgh, we're gonna travel all over the world for Batman." And I was like, perfect. She found Mike out of, I think, 100 applicants that had applied to be an office production assistant, and picked him, and she's like, "You're gonna meet this great guy, he's this country guy, kind of similar to how you grew up in Washington State." And I was like, perfect. So we met, and we were in an elevator with a 12-foot conference table and a passenger elevator. And we were talking, and we just became best friends, and we'd always wanted to write, produce, direct, and eventually Mike moved out, we got place together, and we had no furniture. We had 2 folding chairs and 2 TV trays, and we used to since we had no artwork on the walls, we used to write scripts together. We still write a few scripts together, and we used to make notes and stick them to the walls. So when people came over to our house for extracurricular party activities, people would be like, you guys are like psychopaths. You just have Post-its all over your walls for different movie ideas and like script stuff." And so we've been best friends ever since, and on another small independent film, Transformers. That's where we met Jordan. And I believe for Mike, it was definitely love at first sight. For Jordan, it was very similar to the film. But he wore her down, and of course, the rest is history.
Yeah, great, fantastic. Well, you guys are a trio dynamic. All right, let's talk a little bit about the next step. So you get the script, you're interested in it, you decide you want to be involved with the picture. Biggest attribution is the cast. Let's talk about that. How did you find the cast? Jordan, if you don't mind, maybe can you add on to that before I ask Mike to talk about it?
The cast, it's always hard to get, but we went out to John Cusack, and he was really excited about the script. He really delved in. he wasn't just a gun for hire. He really wanted the history. He would call Mike all the time and just talk out the motivation behind all of these characters. And he was so invested, and that made it even better. Like, he went and did his research, and then we found Brianna, and she was fantastic. She had been in some Marvel movies, and this was a different situation for her, but she was committed and right there with us, and you know, we kind of added on to all of that. And yeah, Mira Sorvino joined us once John Cusack was on, and it just became the perfect cast that worked well together, and they were all so invested.
That's great. All right, so Michael, I want to ask you, was John a first choice? Were there other people that you were interested in at the time? How did it all fall into play with John?
Yeah, well, when I was looking at it, like, they were already kind of circling John, and it was like, hey, is it cool if we go after John? And I was like, oh yeah, absolutely. But like, then John wanted to kind of, like, I'm a young filmmaker, I'm new to the game, so it's basically, it's not so much he wanted to do the movie. It's more of like, does he approve me to direct it more than anything? So I kind of had to go through the ringer with him a few times and just really go over the story, the script. Like I said, like, he's very involved, even in scenes that he's not in. Like, he really cares about all the characters. And I mean, he's such a class act. And even like, I remember on the last day, he pulled me to the side and was just even like, because Brianna that played Penny is still young herself, and like, he was like, he knew I was young too, and he was kind of helping me. He's like, hey, you know, here's some things. Like, he was just helping me how to help her. Like, and then because he just could see how he just wanted to really make the movie as best as possible himself. And so yeah, it was just so great to have him on board, and like, I'm just so grateful that he trusted me to direct it.
Yeah, I think we all agree. You did a great job. Fantastic. So now I want to move to a question that's probably the most important to everybody in this room. Let's go to locations, okay? What brought you here to Connecticut? And then what I'd love to do is just any stories you want to share about certain locations. I know you gave a little bit about at the beginning of the film, but now that we've all seen it, feel free to embellish.
Yeah, I mean, this was sort of serendipitous, the way that we found this. We knew we were coming to Connecticut, and my first thing was, well, let's see what historical homes are in the whole state of Connecticut. And where I started was the Film Commission and Mark Dixon. I found the Lester House. I found a few houses that were in the right time period. But the Lester House just had something about it that was catching my attention. And I reached out to the Film Commission and Mark Dixon, and he put me in contact with Mayor Fred. And I just sent an email. I mean, this is how it happens. It was just a cold email, and I said, we really like this house. What could happen here? And he was like, well, let's see what we can do for you. So we, on a whim, said, well, we're going with this house, sight unseen, in person. So we showed up, loved it, scouted it, met the Historical Society, the Historical Commission, the garden, everyone that was involved with the Lester House. And they gave us all of the information. They wanted to help us, you know, get this movie made. And so we went through and decided to lock this location. And it came with, you know, the Historical Society, which was, again, Doug Kelly, who I could not be more grateful to. His knowledge of antiques and this time period and patterns and all of the things, it just was the most fun that the art department ever had, because I also production designed the film and had our prop master and our set decorator, and we got to create, you know, I know it's a 1700s house, and the idea was that we would use that history but show the period that between 1700s to 1940s, they've collected all these things. So you'll see the different years throughout the house. And it just came together beautifully. I mean, there was so much there already. And then the town opened up and helped us with other locations, and everyone just showed up and wanted to be a part of it.
Yeah. And I want to, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just want to give Andrew so much credit on the bluffs. Like I said, only one other person has ever filmed there, Steven Spielberg, and we didn't have any other backup. Like, it was that or nothing, and he just hounded. I don't know if you want to say anything on that, like, but he just made it work.
Yeah, and Andrew, I want to ask you because, I mean, not just did you guys make a film, but you made a period piece film, which obviously is very difficult to find all the right things. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about that in depth, the challenges that you had.
Yeah, I think for us, like one of the largest challenges, obviously, Doug and Jordan and her team were fantastic, and Mayor Fred and Bob Carlson, everybody, you know, really helped us find different locations, and not only just find them, because obviously everything is somewhat modern minus the Lester House, but helped us take them back in time. Like I'm sure a lot of you have been into the Grange. You know, you walk in and you're like, oh wow, this, you know, it's a great place for community and a great place for banquets, but it's not a place for a hospital from World War II. You know, and you know, everyone was just instrumental on being like, nope, we're going to do this. We'll bring these beds in. We're going to do that. And with Jordan's vision and with Mike leading us, you know, we really had an opportunity to really take this town back in time, and that was something that was pivotal, obviously, to making it on the screen and kind of really setting the tone and stage for everything. As far as it comes to shooting on the bluff, whew, Ed knows well. I think I walked that park more times than probably the locals have here.
And that was Bluff Point.
That was Bluff Point, and not only Bluff Point, but the most popular part of Bluff Point. And I was like, so we have $5,000 to shut this down, and that's all we have. And including permits, including the Parks Department fees and the Park Department employees and the police that had to be there to help, you know, navigate traffic. They had some wonderful production assistants that helped as well. Yes, Ed on sailboat duty. That sailboat shot, I mean, it looks just like a sailboat. My God, finding someone in this area you would think would be very easy with a sailboat, but that was a huge hurdle for that. But it obviously goes back to everything that we had said in the beginning of the film. Like, I'm sure, I hope you guys enjoyed the film, but at the same time, really recognize yourself and everyone that's sitting in here of how much we leaned on this community from all the different townships and all the towns to really not only allow us to take this movie back in time, but allow us to actually work. This movie was shot in 15 days. And you know, it was quite a feat to accomplish. And you know, obviously all credit goes to our fearless leader as far as making his days and shooting 10 pages a day, and John Cusack coming in. But for the amount of money, which I won't say, which is very low, you know, just to see everybody come together and really make something happen and allow us just room to breathe, you know, and just be in the creative space and not have to deal with the, you know, the usual red tape that comes with shooting at like Bluff Point or shooting in a very historical house. You know, everyone here, you guys were all just instrumental in making this happen.
You know, and I think it's a good time I wanted to bring this up because obviously, as you addressed, it takes a community to make a motion picture. So I think you did it at the beginning, but I think we owe it to everyone to do it just one more time, especially now that you've seen your accomplishments. So I'm going to ask you in the audience, anyone that was involved, whether you were in front of the camera, behind the camera, stand up for a second. We want to give you a round of applause. If you brought them a sandwich, stand up, please. Thank you. Yeah, that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. So, all right. So, bringing the shooting on location and everything here. Anything that you found crazy obstacle that you overcame? I mean, what you brought up, like, and I would always think like the cars, the boats, things like that.
The bridge.
Would you mind sharing with us?
The accident on the bridge happened the day before filming. And unfortunately for the truck driver, he lost his life, but there was structural damage to the bridge, and they were legitimately talking about closing that. And obviously crossing the bridge to get to the Lester House, it's very easy to go the normal route. What we did not understand is, you know, the river where your subs are built, and Groton, there's very few access points where you can actually cross in an effective, timely manner. And of course, all of our hotels were in New London. And so it went from a 10-minute drive to a potential 45-minute drive. And I mean, traffic in Los Angeles is bad, but my God, when that bridge is closed, you guys got us beat.
Yeah, I forgot that was during that time period. So during production, You used a lot of our lovely local cast that are here. And did you find certain things as far as working with local crew as well that was beneficial for you, or something where they maybe brought something to the set or to the motion picture that maybe have changed a little bit from the direct line from the script? Anything like that?
I mean, yeah, I'll just go back to Doug Kelly again. I know we keep mentioning his name, but I remember one day we were getting ready to go shoot a scene where Penny's running up cliffs or something, and I forget how it happened, but we're like, oh, how should her hair be? Up, down, whatever? And Doug was like, well, she wouldn't have, well, this is what she, he just knew exactly what someone in that time period would wear. I mean, he even knew, China patterns that, so there's just things where just historically, we just were kind of in the dark on, and he just knew everything. And so he would help on that front and just helped us just make it historically accurate, which I thought was very important. So.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to add to that, New England has more history than the West Coast, and just that alone, we couldn't have gotten the landscapes, the homes, that doesn't exist on the West Coast. It doesn't exist, the rock walls, and it just, having it be real lends itself to that, and being able to come and understand that there are more antiques. I now have an affinity for antiquing that I did not have before. Doug taught me a lot. I would be out shopping at these antique stores and looking for pieces from the right time period, and I'd be like, I don't know about that pattern. And I would take a picture and I would text Doug, and he would be like, no, that's 1952. And I'd be like, nope, and then move on. And we were trying to be as historically accurate as possible. And that's also why we kept a lot of the older furniture, because you definitely would keep that stuff. You don't change your living room, 8 times a year the way people do now. So that stuff stuck around, and there's no way I would have been able to find that kind of legitimate antiques from the real time period on the other side of America. It would have been out of our price range. And so, I was on Facebook Marketplace taking someone was like, I'm selling my dad's or my grandfather's vintage suitcases. I mean, we were like, we're there, we'll take them. And so we were being able to do that. And Doug had friends he introduced us to, and a woman named Kim, who I hadn't even met yet. I said, I need a table for the dining room. And Doug asked her, I'm leaving town tomorrow, but the door's open, just tell her to go in. What? She left the country with the door unlocked and let me go in there and take her dining room table. And that's not something you get in LA. The trust, people are gonna be like, who the hell are you? Get out of my house. That's not something that made sense to me. And then I was like, let me pay you. And she's like, just give me a hug, it's fine. That's not what you get. And that's what makes it so special, is watching this, every single thing to me has a story with every one of you. Someone came, I went to all the antique markets, I met so many people here. And that's what I take with me, is the friendships and the community and the time given, because that's the special experience. I know we created this, but experiencing it with all of you was what I will take.
That's wonderful. So I could ask more questions, because the production value is just fantastic. What you guys did with the special visual effects and everything added so much to it. But I don't want to get into asking questions unless there's something you want to talk about. I'd rather open up the floor and allow. So if any of you have any questions, and I hope you do, please come down to this microphone. Come on up.
Hi, my name's Connor. I had a question about the props you did and how you got it to fit with the time period. You guys did a great job making it look like World War II. So I was wondering, how did you find a prop vendor that was able to fit in that time period? And who were they? Because from in the past, when I produced a project, I went with History for Hire because they had props from different decades. But from my experience, finding vendors who are able to go that far back is really hard. So I'm just wondering how you guys found them, what you guys did to find a prop vendor who could go that far back, and who you went with. Just for when I make my own projects.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And actually, you hit the nail on the head. History for Hire is
I think those, the plain stuff at the beginning.
all of the plain, the gack that was on the suits, all the around their necks and the masks and everything, that did come from History for Hire, as well as the parachutes that were legit from the right time period. We had to ship all that out. And then as far as weapons, some came from New York, some had to come from LA, but we did, and the costumes, same thing. Those are all World War II costumes that we used. So yeah, everything was rentable as far as weapons and all the World War II war things. As far as all the other smaller props in the whole movie, we did a lot of sourcing from around here, all the antique malls, Facebook Marketplace, random connections, and just, you go through and you go, scan that with your phone, Google, what, is that the right time periods? But History for Hire is definitely the period place to go.
All right, thank you. Your film was awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to point out there's a microphone over here too.
Yeah, I had a comment and then a question. The comment was, I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciated the lighting in the interior night scenes, and that they weren't overlit. It had that really warm kind of a glow that you would have like in a 17th century house. And I just see a lot of stuff with its period, and it just seems to be way overlit, if you know what I mean. And I don't know whether that was a conscious thing, if you want to comment on that lighting, because it was almost as if it was in shadows a lot of the time, which of course you could look at that as a metaphor for what was going on in the house, right? So I just wondered if you comment on that lighting.
Yeah, I know. I remember we had a big conversations at the beginning. We were looking at when they're arguing in the foyer on the stairwell, like there's a light switch behind them. We're like, well, did they have light switches back then? Is that the right light switch? And there's lights, and that's when you figure this out. But it's like, yeah, back then, electricity was still minimal, and they still relied a lot on, he had the lantern, and they did a lot of fireplace lighting as well. So it was a mix of the both, and so that was. I take that a lot to Jordan.
Yeah, I researched a lot about electricity. There was a mix. The wealthier people had actual electricity in the 1940s, but rural areas not so much. But because Bob and Maud came from the city technically, and they took over this house, that was the mix, to give it a little bit but not overdo it, because maybe they've got a couple of lights, whatever, but it's not going to be like, you're not going to have recessed lighting and auto switches. So we really wanted to capture the mix.
Yeah, it had a really warm, kind of a homey thing to it, which was so nice, because you could just see the sort of a family sitting around at the holidays with the fireplace and the lighting and all the rest of it. So that was my comment. My question was, you've clearly built this really supportive community here in southeastern Connecticut, and so a lot of people are probably wondering, when are you going to come back with your next project, right? You got a whole community, you got a village here, and when are you going to come back?
Would you like to donate to our next project?
I'm sure we can pass the hat.
So shooting here is a dream. As I said earlier, we've shot in Dubai, Dominican Republic, we've shot in China, we've shot in all over Europe, United States, Mexico, Antarctica, we've been everywhere. But as you had said and rightfully pointed out, the community here is everything. And it does really take a village, as we're looking at it now. And I was telling this to Mike and Jordan last night when we were at the Grange, that coming back here, there can't be a fast enough time period. I was like, why are we here for 3 days? I was like, well, we should be scouting, and we should be prepping, and we should start shooting. It's starting to become spring. The weather's beautiful today. So as far as I know, and I can speak for everyone here, our bucket list is to be back here as soon as possible.
Yeah, and like just, like I said, like we're still like, I'm Robert Miner's friend on Facebook now, it's Facebook, so look out for him. And we're working on Instagram. Yeah. And Kimberly, she, Instagram messages me all the time, when fall comes, it's pumpkin season, when we coming back? And we're coming back, we are. And Ed, he's calling my phone every week, So yeah, I mean, that's what I love. It's like, like Andrew said, we have been around the world shooting films. I've never had maintained a relationship with anyone else like I have with this community, and like I'm dying to come back, and it's happening for sure.
Yeah, and I just want to add that Mike also, someone asked me a question earlier about the tax incentive here and how important it is, and to come back to it. And I will say that last year when there were meetings going on and Ed invited Mike to join the meeting, the state meeting about the incentives, to be able to firsthand say what it meant to us to be here as filmmakers. And Mike joined that Zoom with all of your politician people to say, like, this was a great experience. Please keep the film incentive and please keep these people working. We want to come back here. And, that's not something we take lightly or that we do with everyone, but it felt like the right thing to do because it's important to keep film going in the places that love it. And it clearly was something that Connecticut loves. So we definitely wanted to make sure we help out.
Film Alliance.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good point to make out that filmmakers in the area, as well as filmmakers that come into the state, they need your support. So please, because right now the tax credit is up for discussion, please let people know how important it is that we keep the tax credit going and keep it at the rate that it is and higher to bring in more productions and help encourage more local productions. So, yeah, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. And when Ed calls, he's like, "Hey, we're doing this meeting," it's like, "Well, I'm on West Coast time. That didn't matter. I had to set an early alarm to get to that hearing."
I have two quick questions. We have Girls' Night Out from Ledyard. And,
Hello, ladies.
In front of the years, and we know that upon filming, they have extraordinarily beautiful countryside for the East Coast. It's just stunning. And you can easily film there and not worry about homes or, maybe an occasional cow. But we were commenting, so I'm the spokesperson. Two questions. When you filmed up from the Lester House, or you did a sky view, this is just us not knowing, where'd all the houses go? Because there's a lot of houses there that are around there. And then the second question is, we know we get fog, but we don't get that much fog. So, did you have excessively large fog machines? And was that what we were complaining about at our house? What was going on? So they're technical questions we just don't know about. We'd love to hear how you did it.
Yeah, I know, on the drone, because like I said, this is low budget, so I was doing some of the VFX work myself. So on those drone shots, the only thing that we could see beyond the horizon was actually just one radio tower. So we couldn't see any houses on those shots. So that I guess the trees covered it all. It was dense enough where we didn't see it. It was just one radio tower in the distance, and that was it. As for the fog, I don't know if you saw in those opening scenes where it's over the trees and everything. That's actually all real, and that was, I think, Dean and you went out one morning. It was really early. Andrew went out with the DP, and they went out and just sent the drone up, and that was all natural fog on that. On the stuff on the ground, like with the mill, the car, the night scene with the car. There was a little bit of fog we added there, but yeah, there was. We got lucky with the fog actually. So that was all you guys. So thank you.
We were actually here, we filmed this end of April into May, so it was about this time of year, so it was that weird, cold but warm, so we would show up in the freezing temperature and it would be super foggy and then clear at the end of the day, so we just used that to our advantage.
I mean, at one point we're before we got here, we're well, if there's no fog, we have to change the title. But thank God there was, so it worked out.
So, quick question. Two questions. So, what was your favorite part about filming here in this area and working with this community? And what was your least favorite thing? Like, what was one thing where you think, if we're gonna film here again, we gotta make sure we tweak this little thing?
I mean, my favorite thing again, it's always just the people. One thing I've been making this joke a lot lately with Jordan and Andrew is you always see Adam Sandler and he has the same people in all his movies, and sometimes the movies aren't good, sometimes they're great, but like it's always the same people, and it's like you find out real quickly that you're working really long hours and you become a unit and a family really quick. And so you do want to work with the people that you love. And so that's one thing I'd say about this community is that's the best part is that we were excited every day going to work because we were just working with just such great people and everyone just gave it their all. And so to me, that was my favorite part was just coming to see all the people every day and we had so much fun. And I don't know how we made that in 15 days because, it was crazy. I don't know. And it was because all the people just, gave it their all. And yeah, I'm still shocked actually. And no least favorite part. It was all joy for me.
I don't know that there was a least favorite part. We even, our hotel wasn't the best for us, but we made it work. And what was funny is that we stayed at this very inexpensive motel. And what's fun about that is it's like going to camp, right? We're all like, we're gonna make it work. There might be a weirdo in the lobby that we don't want to talk to. We might need to drag our suitcases up the stairs, but we I don't know. That hotel it ended up having a weird special place in our hearts, I think, even though it was sort of like, are we okay here?
The Clarion. Shout out to Guru if you're here. I think the least favorite part was honestly leaving. I know we're sentimental, but truly, you have to say goodbye to, you make friends so quickly, and then they surpass, your actual friends. And I find myself talking to more people from here than some people that, I see regularly. So I think for me, and I'm sure everybody else, it was getting back on the train, going to New York to fly home. So yeah, I definitely think leaving was the hardest part.
One last small thing. Thank you for including my sister and her husband in the end credits.
Absolutely.
Sure. So I wanted to ask a little bit about the process you guys put into building that opening fighter pilot sequence inside the cockpit and the parachute and all the panic, because it did a lot of heavy lifting to add a lot of gravity and weight to everything that came after. So I just wanted to hear a little bit about that process because it was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that was tough because we just didn't have the budget for that. So that's what we talked a lot about. How do we do this? And so I was like, well, I think the best way to sell it would be sound design. And so it's like we couldn't really afford to do a full sequence. So that's why we did those blips and just let the sound really sell it. And so we actually did shoot that at an airport in LA because we couldn't figure out how to do it in here. And we also just didn't have the time. And so we went to this air base in LA and it was like a World War II, Camarillo, and it was like they had all these old planes and they just really helped us out and let us kind of go in. And that's actually me being the pilot because we just didn't have the money to pay anyone to come in. And the prop master, that's her next to me that died. It was just me, her, and the camera guy, and Jordan was there, and that was it. And we just got these little blips, and we're like, we'll let the sound do it. And then I had my buddy does VFX too, and he was able to get those planes and stuff, and sometimes less. We also the parachute stuff was actually we found some reenactment people on YouTube, and that's just footage we found on YouTube, and we just licensed it from them just. They just parachute out, and they just do that every year or something, just as part of reenactments. And it was just GoPro footage, and so we just licensed that from them. And it's lower quality. So again, let's do the blips, make it quick, and let the sound sell it.
Yeah, it worked wonderfully. Amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, you made a great actor, by the way.
Great
acting. So, as a filmmaker myself, director, producer, I want to say it's crazy how to hear you guys made it in 15 days for this length page. It's crazy. So I just want to hear how what are some of the challenges like you have to accomplish or overcome? Like, how do you make it happen in 15 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I think you just gotta be really naive and just.
Is there any tricks?
Yeah, it's like, you know, we're gonna get it done one way or another. And, you know, that, I mean, the hardest day I'd say was the last day we had John Cusack. And we were in the kitchen scene. It was a scene where he confronts, at the table, Gene, yeah, at the table, Jack, that's his name, at the table, and it was him, Mira, and him, and they just really had trouble finding the motivation in that scene. And we had 15 minutes to block the scene, which so anyone doesn't know, that's just basically like, you have 15 minutes to figure out how you're gonna shoot that scene, and you start rolling. Well, John and them, they had a lot of questions about that scene and the motivation, and it took 3 hours before, like, of us in that kitchen, and that's our last day with John, and we still had probably about 8 pages left.
You shot 11 that day.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And so we still had a lot of pages left. And so I remember the first AD was just pacing behind me, just sweating bullets. The crew was probably out, like the crew, it was private. And it was just me, Andrew, and the cast. And I know the crew was outside, probably just like, what the hell's going on in there? 3 hours. And we actually rehearsed maybe 3 times that whole time. It was more about just talking about it. And so I'm freaking out. And so as soon as John and them like, okay, we get it now. I was like, great. I remember I grabbed you and Jordan and we went upstairs to the bedroom and just opened up the script, started ripping out the pages because we still had a lot to shoot and we were running out of daylight. It would take too much time to figure out how to do it. So that's, you know, the garden scene where John is talking to Brianna and talking about that relationship. That was actually supposed to be 2 or 3 different scenes in different locations. And so it's like, that's where we had the idea. It's like, well, okay, we have to shoot the rest of these scenes outside for lighting that'll be a lot quicker. And then we just pulled different dialogue from different scenes of what was important and just kind of Frankensteined it together. And that's actually one of my favorite scenes now, actually. I just love the look of it, the feel, the sun's setting right behind them. And it's just one of those happy accidents that you're kind of forced into. And you just got to make it work. Yeah.
I would just add that I think it also helps that your wife and best friend are the producers on it, because I think every time we walked in, Mike was like, damn, we're behind schedule. It helps with the tough conversations of just like, come on.
Yeah, because that's one thing, is like they can be real with me, like, yeah, just gotta get it, go.
Okay, we've got time for 2 more questions, right?
First, I just want to thank you guys for coming back here, putting this back.
Thanks for driving.
It was my first time filming something like this, and it felt like such a mad dash getting stuff done. And then we heard like nothing for so long, and then we had the SAG strike and the writer's strike, and then we're like, oh, you know, maybe this, you know, it just fizzled away. And then when we got that email that we were going to put this on, and you found this, you know, we all really appreciate you guys coming all the way back from LA and putting this on. So that's really awesome.
It was super important for us to come back here.
I guess my big question is, who had that awesome Jeep? I'm pretty sure the only reason I got cast is because I knew how to drive that. And I'm going to apologize right now. He pulls me aside, he's like, hey, careful, the Jeep overheats real quick, you know, just go easy on it. And then Mike comes over and he's like, dude, I need you to come in hot. I need you to slam on the brakes and just pop out of this. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry, man. Mike gets what he wants, and that's what's up.
It was that when the hard brake, it wasn't braking hard enough. I was like, you really gotta come to a stop on that. And I didn't need to skid. You did it.
I felt so bad, but I was like, all right, I better make this good. But yeah, really cool. And I apologize if you're in the audience, whoever Jeep that was. It was pretty awesome to drive.
Thank you.
Hi, how are you? My name's Logan. This might sound kind of like an odd question, but in the beginning of the film, I really took notice of that very brief interaction where Victor talks about how you might get lost in the cliffs and how the bluff was a huge role in the movie. And I was just wondering if that was some kind of allusion to the fact that there were going to be some very, you know, touchy events that ended up there later, or if that was like a little Easter egg that you guys had planted.
Yeah, so it actually has a couple layers actually, because yeah, it's very specific because we also wanted to set up, because it's very important to establish storyline that the bluffs are nearby. Because at the end, we had to make sure that he got there on foot and not driving there. Because we knew that we had to set that up, so that it became a good point to like, okay, let's have him warn him about that.
Get there on foot.
Exactly. So that was a really key point for that, just to understand the location of it all, so that audience knew that, oh yeah, there are bluffs right there. And then, you know, at a certain point too, you realize too, that's how Penny's mom died, was that she fell off the bluffs too. And so it was just important to kind of just, set that seed so everyone knew, okay, there's bluffs there. And then also that we would come back at the end. And that's kind of like, we do start out on the beach with them in that fight, but we do it really tight, so you really don't know what's going on. And we just kind of wanted to foreshadow a lot of that.
Yeah, I think that was just a stroke of genius, so I just wanted to say that.
Oh, thank you, appreciate it. Thank you.
Just one more sort of impression from you guys. The Guard has done so much for this community. We were here last week for the Moth Radio Hour program, and now you referenced in the beginning this is going directly to streaming, and that seems to be such a big part of the whole industry in the current state of affairs. How do you react to the idea that you're kicking off your film here in a old-fashioned theater with modern audience of all ages, and yet it's just a blip in time, and now it's going to streaming, which is really where the industry seems to be going. So many theaters are closing. How do you react to this environment compared to one that really you'll never see or be a part of, kind of like tonight, where you actually have an audience in front of you?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, I'm still not sure I'm not dreaming right now. Like, this is this is crazy. It's like, I'm still pinching myself. Like, yeah, like it's a dream come true to experience this with the audience, especially, you know, with the cast and crew and the locals that we worked with. Like, that's really special to me, just to share this experience with you guys. But I mean, yeah, it's very rare. I mean, you know, it's just we don't get this experience anymore. And this is something that I know we're all three. We talk about this. We're dying for this to come back. And so this is very special for me. And like I you know, there's a good chance this might never happen again, honestly. So this is just I can't thank everybody enough in the Guard and everybody for just bending over backwards. And like I said, like the Guard, they put this together overnight for us essentially. Like it was Ed reached out and connected the dots, and here we are. Like it was so last minute. It's so special to me, and I can't thank everybody enough for allowing us to be here. I feel honored and privileged to be in like this theater, because we were talking with Wes, it's like going on 100 years old, and so yeah, I mean, I just hope that, you know, we swing back towards people with the theaters and stuff, because this is how it should be seen. This is the experience that everyone should have when watching the movie. It should be communal and not, you know, on your couch where you can pause and, you know, just, you know, couch surf and stuff. It's like, that's not how you should be watching movies. And so this is very special to me. I'm sure Andrew and Jordan would add to that.
Yeah, I mean, from stepping out quickly before coming up here, there were 622 people that came from the community tonight. And, you know, movie theaters are sadly, as you said, fading. And we all grew up in the cinema. Everyone here grew up going to the movie theater, and that experience shared with your community, with your friends, with strangers, is a vital piece of absorbing art and absorbing a piece of cinema for, you know, 2 hours sitting in the dark and just being communal. And I know for me personally, like, I'm not a big fan of the streaming platforms. I know that is where the industry is going, but sitting here and halfway through the theater, I just stood up in the back and just was watching people watch the film and absorb it together. And it is quite an amazing feat to see everybody, you know, absorbing not only a project that we were a part of and that everyone here was a part of, but to just see it as a community coming together. And, you know, it really kind of touches you in a way of just like, gosh, you know, I really hope cinema doesn't completely go away, because this shared experience is something that is so vital and such a part of all of us.
Yeah, same. I mean, there's not much more to say. I hope that film does come back and comes to the theater. I mean, that's what it's about, is, you know, the history of theater, movies, it's like we want to get away. You want to experience something. And when you're in your living room by yourself, it's very different than when you do it on a platform like this, on a big screen where you can really experience it with other people. And we just don't get that, and I hope that the other thing is that a lot of movies get lost in streaming. If you don't have the budget to really put that marketing effort out there, you really have to expect your audience to like do a lot of work to find your film. And, you know, that does make it harder. And we want to try to do as much as we can to promote it. But by doing this and showing it, you know, that's all of you getting to see it and talk about it and have conversations and share it. And that's really the core of how we get the message out and to keep the art alive.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, listen, it's all of you. You're the ones that are keeping this place alive. And we are so honored and humbled to have a theater like the Guard here in London. I mean, truly, it's an honor to have any presentation here for what it is. So thank you as patrons. I want to wrap up by asking one last question, you guys. What's next?
Yeah, I mean, that's always the $1 million question. So yeah, just I mean, you know, we're just always looking for the next project. I have another one. I just wrapped up a rom-com that I know my mom's gonna be really excited about. so I'm in post on that right now. So yeah, I'm just kind of deep diving into that, and then hopefully the next one we find and we bring it back here and just, you know, make another fun movie here with everybody here. Because yeah.
All right, I guess first or last, I want to say, Andrew, Jordan, Michael, thank you for bringing your film here. We're glad to have you back. I'm Alec Aston, and again, thank you all for supporting the Guard, supporting filmmakers like these fantastic trio here, and we look forward to seeing more of the movies.